everybody, and welcome back to the Girly Girl Bookworm. So, in the beginning of the year, I did, around June-ish, I did a favorite books of the first half of the year, and now I'm coming at you with the second half of the year. So, every month I tried to pick one or two of my favorites. I tried to really narrow it down. I tried to be really hard on myself and really choose just one book for each month. There's 2 months where I chose two, but it is what it is. So the first book is for July. My favorite book that I read in July was Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I know a lot of people didn't love this one, but I was obsessed. I could not put this one down. We are following a girl set in the 1990s where she is going to college. Her best friend was murdered by a serial killer and she just needs to get out of town. She just needs to leave. And she goes to one of those boards where people kind of can ride share, and she grabs a number from somebody to share a ride. And she starts to wonder when she's in the car if she's with the guy who's the serial killer. So the one good thing about this that I thought was really cool was she's really into movies, so it references a lot of movies. And because of that, she kind of has a misunderstanding sometimes of what's reality and what's not. And I loved this one. The ending, the epilogue, I loved it. I know that there's a ton of people who hated it, but I was obsessed with this one and really enjoyed it. So it had to make my top favorites of the year. Then in August, I read Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. This is a middle grade fantasy novel. Book 2 comes out in 2022, so I'm really excited. We're following Amari. Her brother has kind of gone missing, and so she doesn't know where he is, and she's at this private school that she kind of hates. And one day she gets this letter that opens up a briefcase, and she realizes that her brother was involved in some paranormal-y stuff at this school, and she kind of gets invited to go, and it's just her journey of finding herself in addition to finding her brother. And I really enjoyed this one, and I think more people need to read this. So even if you are not a fantasy reader, or if you're not necessarily a middle grade reader, I think you'll still really enjoy it, because I'm not a big middle grade reader and I'm not a really big fantasy reader, and I just could not get enough of this story. So I'm excited to continue on with this series, and it was one of my favorites this year. Then in September, we've got another one that kind of took me by surprise, and this is In Every Mirror She's Black by Lola. I can never pronounce this person's name. I apologize. This one came as a complete surprise because it was nowhere near my radar. I had no idea what it even was until it was on Book of the Month, and I had to have it. And I found it on Hoopla as a Kindle book, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll pick it up earlier than I planned, and I'm so glad that I did. This one is following 3 different women and their connection to this man in Sweden. They are all Black and he's white, and just seeing how people in Sweden treat Black people. And the one cool thing is all 3 women are very different. They all come from different socioeconomic statuses and places in their life, and but all 3 of them have their own different baggage, and just watching how they are treated and how their stories, although separate, do kind of interweave and do connect. It was such a great story, and I highly, highly recommend you read it. One of the women is a businesswoman. She's working in the U.S., and she kind of gets sought out by this man to come work for them in Sweden. This other woman is his, wife. I can't remember if she's a wife or a mistress, but she's in his life romantically, and then the other one is she's a maid in this office building, and just seeing all of their differences and where they come from, but how they are also similar, and it was a really beautiful story, and I'm really glad that I picked this one up. October was the month where I had to pick 2, because these 2 took me by complete surprise. That I love. As much as I'm making a surprising video, I feel like my surprising books are all books that I made favorites anyways. But the first one is You Were There Too by Colleen Oakley. This is a book that my husband bought me the year prior for my birthday, and I didn't read it, and all of a sudden it was October again, and I was like, oh no, I should probably read that. So I picked it up, and it's about this woman who has these dreams of this man, and she doesn't know why, because he's not in her life at all. And someday, all of a sudden, in walks the guy from her dreams. And the weird thing is, he dreams about her too. And they're trying to figure out why they dream about each other. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. This book literally left me sobbing in tears. I ended up buying this for a family friend because it was one that I feel like is not on a lot of people's radars, but it's so good. And after I finished this one, I knew that I definitely had to pick up the other book that this author has written. So I've since bought her newest release, which I am planning to read this year. And this one really hits you in the feels. So if you're looking for a book that is totally emotional, this is one for you. My other favorite was The Rehearsals by Annette Christie. This one is a book that I randomly saw on Instagram once, I think, and then when I was in Target and I saw it, I was like, I'm buying it. I don't know what it's about, but I'm buying it. It's about weddings. I'm buying it. It's about this couple, and they are kind of heading to their, like, kind of destination wedding. It's not completely a destination, but it kind of is. And they are there, and it's the night of the rehearsal, and things happen. And suddenly they find themselves, both him and her, in this Groundhog's Day, where they keep reliving their rehearsal day over and over and over again, and they're trying to find their way out. I found it fun. I found it interesting. I loved this story so much, like I couldn't put it down. And for a book that I picked up completely at random with no real expectations, it really took me by surprise, and I had to put it on this list. November was another 2-book month. We have Dead Woman Crossing by J.R. Adler. This is the first book in a series following Kimberly King, and she's a detective. She is a detective in the city, and she is relocating to this small town where her mom lives, and the town's nickname is Dead Woman Crossing. And there's a murder that takes place, and it kind of mirrors something that happened way in the past in this town. And it's up to her to kind of figure out who did it. And I found it really good. I gave it 5 stars. This is written by technically Geneva Rose as well. So her book made it to my favorites last year. And I loved this one so much that I had to buy book 2 immediately. And I don't do that very often. And so I felt like if I did that, then it must be a favorite. So I picked this one. And then I also put on here The Last Guest by J.P. Pomare, or Pomar. I don't actually know how to say his name. But this was recommended to me by Janelle. And I, for some reason, just well, technically it wasn't even recommended to me. She just posted it. And I was like, I need that. And I randomly bought it. And I was like, you know what? I should probably read it rather quickly because I did buy it out of randomness. And when I buy randomly, I tend to like to read quickly. And I could not put this book down. We're following a couple, and they own this guest house, and they don't really get there as often as they would like to. Well, not a guest house. They own a summer house, and they don't get there as often as they like to. They heard some rumors about making it an Airbnb, so they do that, and things go absolutely crazy. Somebody visits, and it takes a deadly turn, and I, again, couldn't get enough of this one, and I feel like I don't hear anybody talking about it, so I wanted to put it on this list. And then the last one for December, I wanted to pick 2, but I was like, no, just pick one. And that was The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. I just talked about this one in my wrap-up, so I'm not going to really go into it too much, but it's basically a set of twins who swap places in their lives for a little bit. There's baking, there's a like Food Network type of show going on. It was a lot of fun, and it was exactly what I needed this holiday season. It was just sweet and romantic, and just, it was a good time. I know that a lot of people didn't love this one, but for me, it hit me exactly where it needed to, so it was a favorite for me. So yeah, those are my favorite books of the rest of the year. I will hopefully somewhere tag or link the very first half of the year. I think that one I was a little bit not as hard on myself, so I think that there's quite a few months with multiple options. So I definitely went over like 12 books for my top 12. But I did read 249 books this year, so the fact that I was able to limit it at all is pretty impressive. So yeah, I hope you guys had a great year of reading. Let me know what you really enjoyed down below, and I will see you guys really soon. Bye, everybody.